Hey everybody, it's Portland Chess Shop here to bring you some chess action, and we have a special treat. It's a Grandmaster deathmatch. Grandmaster Shankland, one of the strongest U.S. players, against Grandmaster Hess, who's also one of the strongest players in the U.S. So this is an exciting game brought to you by Chess.com. It is a deathmatch. They're going to be playing for a few hours. They're starting with 5-minute time controls, going down to 3, and then down to 1. I just watched the pre-game interviews, and this is the beginning of the first match. Black has exchanged in the center. The opening started with sort of a French, could have become a Nimzo, and now we have, I think, a d4 sort of set up out of an e4 opening. The pawns are exchanged again, some open lines in the center. So this is really exciting. This is the third death match on chess.com. So I'm here to support one of my favorite sites, as well as the Internet Chess Club. And what can I say? I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be interesting. The bishop comes down to attack the knight. The other knight jumps forward to the center. The bishop takes the knight. Now this bishop comes back. This bishop is pinned to the rook, and he exploits the pin with a b5 move. So now this could be disastrous. It looks like the bishop can't take, and the bishop, the dark square bishop behind it, because the dark square bishop behind it would fall. Sorry, I just woke up. I'm trying to bring you the best chess action. I'm drinking my coffee right now. Hopefully it'll get a little bit better. So the bishop moves, so he trades an exchange for 2 pieces and a pawn, which is a fair exchange, but the 2 bishops is probably a little bit better. So I would say that this position favors black by a little bit, but not by a gigantic amount. Just having, the 2 knights and the bishop is just a lot of minor pieces able to do a lot of things. So the bishop moves down to use another pin. So a pin, obviously, I'm trying to teach beginners, but the pin is where this pawn can't move forward, can't take diagonally, because if it were to, then this bishop would be attacking the queen. So it's really good to set up pins because it decreases your opponent's mobility, it exploits, key squares, and yeah, you're able to often win material with a pin. Like it'll just look like the position's fine, and then suddenly it'll all fall apart. So here I imagine, knight b6 is played, so just exploiting the pin. He can't push up to attack the knight because the queen is exposed. So he's sort of behind here. He'll have to, if he moves the queen, then the pawn falls because now it's attacked 3 times. Luckily, it is defended by this knight as well, so he may be able to save it. He moves his rook up, overprotecting a2 as well as defending c4, preparing the rook c1 move. This knight retreats, trying to attack this pretty powerful good knight that's defending the c4 square. So takes and takes, comes back. So it looks like this pawn isn't falling yet. So Shankland is down a minute in the first match. They're going to be playing for a couple hours, and so I heard, some momentum can change. Like exciting things can happen in a 3-hour match, and so the winner gets $500 guaranteed. Plus, $500 is split depending on the win percentage of each player. The rook retreats back to the center. I think this queen should probably get out of this pin as soon as it can. He decides not to. He decides to play h3. The queen comes down. The queen controls a lot of powerful squares. The queen on an open board just is so, it just can control so many squares at once. So I do like the positioning of this queen also blocking this pawn. So he's not going to be able to take the pawn immediately. Well, maybe he could, but he might not want to because he might just want to control the square. But anyway, he moves to his queen to f5 anyway, attacking the knight. Rearranging his pieces, trying to find create some weaknesses. But I think he probably does want to take this pawn soon because I don't know, he has enough material attacking it. Could be useful. So let's see what he does with this rook. Okay, he keeps it on the line. He moves it back to c1. So we see black, Robert Hess. So Hess, both these players I think have played in the U.S. Championship. I think Shankland beat Hess in the championship to get third a few years ago when he was young. So both these players I think are 21 years old. I think Hess goes to Yale. That's about the background that I know. So the rook does take the pawn. Now the bishop takes back, defended by the knight. So that's sort of the advantage of having, you know, two minor pieces, is you're able to back up the other minor piece with the knight, and the rook can't take because the bishop is more valuable. So the queen comes down. The queen's controlling some key squares, trying to attack this a7 square. If it could take this a7 square, then the knight could be exposed, and then the bishop, you know, could fall because the bishop's attacked by the rook. So he's trying to remove the defender of the defender. That's a good idea. So here's the defender of the knight. The knight is the defender of the bishop, and this move threatens to remove the defender of the defender. So that's the kind of thinking that you want to use, because, you know, in Grandmaster chess, you know, like pins are good, but sometimes you set up a pin to, you know, to set up a pin, or set up a pin to remove the defender, set up a pin to set up a double attack. So now the bishop moves out. So this, I think, is prophylactics, trying to get out of the way of the queen takes a7. He'll try to do something. He'll try to exploit a good move like queen here to attack the rook and simultaneously threaten checkmate, thus basically finishing the game. So I don't think that the queen will be able to take on a7, because you need to keep your pieces centralized. So yeah, he retreats his queen, controlling this key square that I just mentioned. So that seems like a good move. He's just trying not to lose, but he is down pretty significantly on time. I do think that this game favors Hess, but he will have to finish his opponent. You still have to move pieces. So he's up about a minute. I want to see Hess play quickly here. The rook could be pretty good. It could be hard to advance this pawn if the queens came off, but I think he wants to just keep the queens on. He has more pieces. He can control more squares. He takes on a2. A little bit courageous, a little bit ballsy, but it's probably good as well. It's good to take material when you can, especially when you can create things like pass pawns. So if the rook defends, he could move his queen. Black just seems to have a lot of options, and white has to find good moves, while black can play a variety of different moves. So the position is easier to play for black because black is has a little bit stronger position. So the rook does come over here. The bishop retreats, and now this pawn could fall, which I think is kind of interesting. So now the knight comes to the center. Okay, knights are stronger on the center. We know that. And if the rook checks, then the king is going to go here. The king is going to be pretty safe. This f7 is totally overprotected. So now the knight comes to this square, threatening to double attack. Right, a family fork. So I think that white is going to see the family fork and defend against it. But still, just having a knight so well posted here, he's almost threatening knight takes g2, for example. That could be a potential very powerful threat. So Shankland is down to 30 seconds, which is not very much time to finish a game of chess. Not enough. He moves his queen here. I think he's defending h3 as well as e2. So he has a check down here, kind of interesting, but I think he wants to keep his pieces. See how like the bishop and the queen are both overprotecting this f7 square, and these other squares aren't really, you know, the only weakness in the kingside position is that the light squares are slightly weak because this h6 move weakened the g6 square. So you see that things are just overprotected. Being careful, trading off these pawns, I think was a good thing. So it is Hess's move. Hess is not playing really for time. I would play faster and try to flag my opponent. He's only up 40 seconds now. I think that this could go either way theoretically. If Shankland plays fast, he could win on time in this position. I mean, he's only up 30 seconds. I've come back in things like this against unsuspecting opponents. But queen g5 does look like a very good move. He's threatening knight takes h3, which he can't take back with the queen because the bishop takes. The king, you know, he can't take back with the pawn because there's a pin. There's a pin on g2. There's also a mate threat on g2. So that move is very dominating. It looks like, oh, knight takes h2 could be played, but now this move also does threaten checkmate, because now after check, it's basically mate because the h7 square is now covered. So we could see a bishop f5. We could see the knight check. We see, oh, this is this is an interesting move. Okay, this move is pretty good. The bishop comes to the center, attacking the queen, hitting g2, and also defending this square, doing like all three things that he needs to do at once. The bishop is going to take, the queen takes check, the king comes back, the bishop checks, the pawn is probably just going to go up, and this is a GG situation. He's got way too much. He pushes the pawn again. He's exploiting the king's position and probably just checking. So check, check, check. He's got a lot more time than his opponent. As long as he doesn't hang his queen, I think he's got this. Can he finish him? Check. The king comes over. Don't give up perpetual. Oh, the queen check. So this trades off the pieces, and now this is a really easy ending for a grandmaster. I could do this in 10 seconds, and so can he. So that's why Shankland resigns, and the first game goes to GM Hess. Here's the second. Let's do it.